in Wanjiri Karaoke, who was shot 3 times last day. That is yesterday, rather. And now we are joined by our very own Mumbi Wambugu from Nakuru on an update of her health status. Good morning, Mumbi. Was the actually surgery conducted, and what is the progress?
Good morning, Chacha. I hope you're well this morning. So yesterday at around 1 a.m., Wanjiri was taken into the theater, and the surgical operation was performed, where the medics were able to remove 3 bullets. They're still in the possession of the doctors, so we are going to assess, of course, with the help of experts, to just see what kind of bullets were used on her. So she's currently in the ICU. She's receiving the care, and the doctors are trying to monitor her condition. But she's in a stable condition at the moment. So we don't know when she will be getting out of the ICU, but we'll be following up on that. So basically, we've been able to speak to the family. The family is very devastated. The family is very shocked, especially the mom, who cannot understand how the daughter left Nairobi to come to Nakuru to perform her mandates as a journalist, only to be shot 3 times. Will you be staging demos as earlier planned? Yes. As journalists in Nakuru, will you be staging demos as earlier planned? Yes, I was coming to that, yes. So basically, journalists in Nakuru County, including the various leadership entities of the media, that is the Nakuru Journalists Association, as well as the Media Council Regional Coordinator, will be joining us for a procession to the County Commander's office, which is the Nakuru Central Police Station. The journalists want answers, and they also want to petition a few things to the police. This includes what has been done to the police who performed the action, because via the videos that were taken during the incident, it is evident that they are able to, point out the vehicle, and they are able to know which police did the heinous act. So the journalists will be there from 9 a.m. The procession will start at the railways station all the way to the commander's office, that is Mr. Samuel Ndani. So we are getting reports that the office of the commander has already organized a group of police officers. So we are not even sure if our security will still be guaranteed. We are not sure if the police are still going to lobby tear gas canisters to the journalists. We are not sure if they are going to shoot at the journalists, as we witnessed yesterday, which was so evident that the shooting was quite intended and very intentional. So the journalists were being targeted. We don't know whether we are going to see that today, but that is a situation we'll just continue to follow up. We will be live on our bulletin. So if that happens, then it will still happen as it happened yesterday in the eyes of the public.
Thank you, Mumbi Wambugu, and a quick recovery to Catherine Wanjiri Karaoke. And now back to our discussion in studio. Honorable Marian Kitani, the cabinet was dismissed. Last time you were here, you called for one of the CSs to be fired. At some point, the same clip was used in defense that you had sponsored a motion. That's by the Bumula Member of Parliament, Jack Wamboka. But at the end of the day, all cabinet secretaries were fired. In the reconstitution of the cabinet, what are your expectations?
Just as I was saying before I get to cabinet, is that the whole stratum, the whole system that we are in is actually, I can say there's a lot of corruption in the whole infrastructure. And I just mentioned to you while we were on a break that I came from Eldoret yesterday to Nairobi at the airport. The officers who work for KA, they are salaried. Are busy saying, Mheshimiwa, tusaidie chai, ni baridi. I reached Nairobi, and a policeman who was just outside there because his work is to take care of the airport also says, Mheshimiwa nisaidie chai ni baridi. So when that happens, I am imagining that youth who is arrested maybe in the streets and told, you have done A, B, C, and D. So the youth maybe tries to say, no, pole, sijafanya, and he's told, aya, leta chai, ama leta kitu kidogo ndio nikuachilie. That is how our system is. So even as we start with cabinet, which I believe this time round you will see us as members of parliament going to take our mandate seriously, it should permeate down all the way to the bottom. I remember when Kibaki came into power. At that time, the president at that time had said, it is a citizen's arrest. If a policeman, you find a policeman doing this, arrest that policeman. And you could see there was law and order. For the first time, at that time, every citizen knew that I have to do, as a public servant, I have to do my duty. So coming to the cabinet, I have seen in the Daily Nation some of the appointments that were done, like Mithika Linturi, at the time he was appointed, he had cases before court. That is what is mentioned here. There was also Aisha Jumwa, she had cases before court. Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president, had a 7.3 billion graft case in court at the time of his appointment. Anthony Mwaura, who the court the other day, was it yesterday, said that his appointment was illegal because he had a pending court case. So going forward, any person who is going to be brought, because that is the creme de la creme, the top of government, anybody who is going to come and be presented before, because the names will be read and then they are presented to us in parliament. I want to assure the Kenyan public that anybody who will come there that has cases that are pending in court, for one, that will not see the light of day. Well, and secondly, of course, we know that the Gen Zs are very active and they are able to dig information about these people. We will look out for that information, any information that is brought before us, and we encourage them to use the proper channels, because one of the ways of bringing out these issues is you write petitions to Parliament so that those petitions can be considered. So we would want to encourage them to write petitions to us and say, this particular person appointed has this particular issue, and I want to assure them. Me, from where I stand, I am an UDA Kenya Kwanza MP, but I will make sure that I stand with what the Kenyans require of us.
Nadine, just an affirmation there from Honorable Merian Kitani that this time round, no rubber stamping. But there are speculations that some of the dismissed cabinet members could still make their way back to the cabinet. Will that augur well with Kenyans? Will it be a proper move by the president? Because they had an option of not firing them, firing a few who he believes are not performing, rather than dismissing the whole cabinet, then rehiring them.
You see, first and foremost, if you listen to the protesters, they're actually saying, there's a song they're using, Anguka Nayo. They're saying, go with it down, the entire system. And when you talk about incompetence, for example, I'll give you an example of one of the easiest examples of incompetence. You dissolve the entire cabinet and leave an unconstitutional office. What is that? You see, you cannot say that the members of cabinet were incompetent, and then you appointed them, you forwarded their names, and then there was a day they were being read for the Riot Act in front of us, in the glare of the camera. They were being told how they don't understand the line ministries, they know nothing about whatever is happening in the ministry, but he then went ahead and gave them new performance contracts. It doesn't make sense if you ask me. If someone has failed on their job, why are you rewarding them again? You have said they don't understand the ministry, they don't understand whatever is happening in the line ministry. So when you talk about incompetence, you should also look at himself. So
none of the members who are fired should come back to office?
Because, I'm getting there, because when you listen to the protesters, they're saying, one, they don't want anyone to come back. Number two, they're saying they do not want a government of national unity. This issue of hearing that the Azimio folk want to form a way and join government, that will make this protest catch more fire. Out of the frying pan into the fire. Because at the end of the day, they do not want that to happen. Because it means that those who died in vain for opportunistic politicians to find their way into cabinet. And that in itself, we don't sit well with them. So I do believe that the president finds himself in a very weird place. Because one, they are saying that they do not want him to stay there. They want him to even dissolve parliament. That is the question we have, because they say members of parliament don't even represent us. They represent their party more. And you know, the deputy president is on record saying, do not chase away your members of parliament, do not beat them, do not forgive them, but they have a party, they have to respect their party. We cannot have a situation where members of parliament subscribe to party politics, to the decision of the party, as opposed to what the people want. So if people say they don't want this law is oppressive, and your party says yes, so you vote yes. So we find ourselves in a situation where she says the entire system is skewed, and that is why the song, the Anguka now is there, because they want the entire thing to come down. Well, how it Angukas, they don't care, so long as everybody finds their way home.
Prof, you know, this is a litmus test for President William Ruto in restoring confidence, you know, in Kenyans. And from a governance expert point of view, what are the do's and don'ts, even as the president relooks on how to reconstitute his cabinet?
Yeah, first of all, the president has to understand what is the JD of a cabinet. And then from there, first of all, be able to bring a cabinet that will be able to do their work. Because first of all, we had a president who never allowed the cabinet to work. According to me, the president was the one saying everything and doing everything. In fact, some people didn't know, even some cabinet ministers, because even in the Ministry for Education, he could have been the one announcing some dates when school should open. Sometimes Minister of Health. I remember when Uhuru Kenyatta was the president, on matters COVID, most of the time, it was Mutahi Kagwe who was giving updates and the rest. So first of all, the president has to change his mindset and philosophy and realize that when you have dogs, you don't have to bark. The dogs need to bark for you. In fact, the president exposed himself too much by barking. Then secondly, change the structure of how he ran government. As far as I'm concerned, the president had advisors on this side, the cabinet on the other side. Yet the execution should happen from the cabinet. So if the president wants it, that advisors should advise the president from inside the cabinet. So if you are an expert in health, advise me through my cabinet official, so that the cabinet becomes my official advisor, but your advice has gone through the system. So the structure is not just replacing people with people. It's also changing the structure, the system, the process. So that's one thing I think he needs not to do. The president needs to choose people who love the country. When someone can bring fake fertilizer, when someone can import oil which has got issues, sugar which has, you must love your country. So do the people in Kenya love their country? I'm sure you'll ask me whether there's a lavometer to measure who loves Kenya, but these things can always be told. You can tell people who have been talking passionate about your country, people who love their country. There are some people we got before, so how we got those people before, the same way you can get them. I remember for me, my favorite minister in the history of Kenya has always been, I know people may have issues, but that has always been Michuki. Michuki came and said, Kenyans must be belted for dignity, and it happened. So we also have people like Raphael Tuju, who did very well also when he was working as in the office of Mwai Kibaki. So meritocracy, Gen Zs have said it, I don't want to go there. Leadership are people who can define a direction for their ministry. Tell me any single minister in previous government that gave you a blueprint for their ministry. They were just busy doing dealership. Tell me whether Aisha Juma told you where public service was supposed to go. Moses Kuria ever told you any. Go to Linturi where agriculture was going. They continue just quoting Kenya Kwanza manifesto, which was not working. Then let's start from honesty. The president needs to be honest, not that he's just trying to survive. Let him appoint a cabinet to deliver, not to survive. Because the cabinet he appointed was for political survival. But here Gen Zs are putting pressure. Let him not just do that. Well, and I want to end by saying the following. Mr. President, do not listen to people telling you, or else we should advise you whom to pick. No. Why I'm saying this, and I'm not trying to advise even my fellow, let's say not my fellow Gen Zs, but the Gen Z I empathize with. Give the president the prescription, but do not pick for him his cabinet. Because if you pick for him the cabinet, he will use that as an excuse by saying, you impose this cabinet on me. What we want, let us ask simple questions. Do we have drugs in hospital after your cabinet? Can people get employment? Can the economy grow? Well, because if you start saying, balance it this way, balance this tribe, give me this number, the guy will say, the pressure was too much, let us just go to what are the deliverables that we need. And if you give us those ones, after you appoint the cabinet, we shall evaluate you based on the deliverables.
And now to Honorable Marian Kitani. Even as this whole conversation is there, you know, we're talking about how to restore public confidence. Despite the public rejecting an increase in the road maintenance levy by 7 shillings, EPRA still went ahead and adjusted it upwards without even amending the Kenya Roads Board Act. Does this derail the gains that at least the president is trying to make?
If there is any increase that has been done outside the law, of course, as Parliament, we will say that is not constitutional, that is not lawful. And I think you remember that there are some laws that we actually annulled because they did not go through the right process. Just at the beginning of this Parliament session, we annulled there were almost 1,000 laws and regulations that had been effected or implemented without going through the right process. We were here with you once when the Minister for Interior was trying to increase the cost of ID. I remember when we read all those costs that he was trying to increase, and I remember telling you that will not see the light of day because it has to come through Parliament for Parliament to endorse. So anything that any arm of government is going to do when the law says it must be approved by Parliament will not see the light of day because either one person goes to court or us as Parliament will now take up the role and make sure that that is cancelled and we go through the right process.
But should President William Ruto come out clean on these and even call out EPRA?
I think for EPRA there is a committee of Parliament called the Energy Committee that should be able to call him out. There is also a PIC, but the problem is the PIC will come much later after the audits have been done. But the one that is almost immediate will be the Energy Committee that needs to call him out and tell him
so this
on
could
what
have been
law
done without
are you
the
using.
knowledge of President Ruto. You think so?
I wouldn't say he knows. I wouldn't say he doesn't know because I don't sit in the executive. I sit at the legislative arm. So I can't say that he knows or doesn't know. But the truth is, or the fact is, that the reason why Parliament exists is for 3 functions. One is representation, the other is oversight, and the other one is to make law. So in the role of oversight, because we we work through committees, then the arm of the Committee of Parliament that is supposed to look at that, to look at EPRA should be able to call them and ask them how they have effected that, if at all that is true. And if even if they don't, a petition can come to Parliament, or any of us in Parliament can stand and actually ask a question as to how that fuel levy has been increased. So that is a role that we need to take up, and that is a role we do usually
we'll be waiting to
in
see
Parliament.
whether you will stand and actually talk about it. Nudin, you know, Vincent Kawai is the chair of the Energy Committee of the National Assembly. So far, he hasn't actually called out EPRA or actually put them on the spot. And by the time Parliament comes and you know, nullify, already there are money that has been collected. Could this be a plot to siphon from Kenyans?
You see, the worst thing is, even if we file a class suit and we want refunds, refunds rarely happen in this country, because there was a case where people wanted to file when the housing levy was suspended back. Then it came back, people wanted to file for refunds, and it didn't mature. You see, the worst reality is that if whatever they have done is unconstitutional, it's wrong, it's not procedural, then it becomes an issue, and issue as to refund is neither here nor there in this country. We rarely get refunds. Well, that reminded me of something. You know, the president failed to sign the finance bill, all right? And he withdrew the bill. I don't know which aspect of the law he followed, because he has no power to withdraw a bill. Because once the bill is where it is currently, he either sends it back with recommendation, they accept it, the recommendations, they refuse the recommendations, and it still becomes law. And so, let me just finish. Let me just finish. Yes. Let me just finish. You know, his words, he said that he withdrew. I'm quoting him. I am quoting him. And there's a video, he said he withdrew. And that's why I'm saying he has no power to withdraw.
So you have a problem with the wording?
No, listen.
No, we need to know what he did. I think you are misguiding the public in that particular aspect.
Let me just finish. Let me finish the statement. So he said he withdrew the bill and sent it to Parliament. Now, there are two things when you send this thing to Parliament. You either send it with recommendation, all right, which we are yet to see what Parliament does. Because you see, there are two things. Parliament can adopt your recommendations or refuse to adopt your recommendations, and it passes to become law without his signature. Now, the other issue is whether a repeal of the same will be done. So those are things we're waiting to see. Well, and I've not preempted anything. I've just said we're waiting to see what happens between now and then when they come back for recess.
And allow me to correct that, because I think that is a wrong notion. President returned the bill with recommendations to reject each and every clause in that bill.
Well, and it's now before the Finance
and it is
Committee.
Before the Finance Committee, yes.
Prof. Ogola, even as we wind up, what can be done to end the Gen Z demos? At the same time, on the road maintenance levy that the public rejected, yet EPRA went ahead and implemented, reversed it upwards by 7 shillings.
Yeah, first of all,
in a minute as well.
It is very unfortunate that we are still having these things of increasing fuel levy, because it seems that this thing was somehow rather in the finance bill, yet the revised one was there, because when they say there, let's not go to arguments now because we are finishing. It was in the finance bill. We can discuss that off air. I can tell you where it was, even the act where it was. So it was somewhere there. But the president is bent that the money he wanted to make in the finance bill, he will make it whether you like it or not. This government is more concerned about how much money they are making and how much power they are consolidating. So they have not yet understood what Kenyans are looking for. So the second question about what can end the Gen Z's demos, it's very clear. The Gen Zs have looked at the president since he took up office. The amount of lies from him to the junior most staff in the office, they have seen that they are lying all through. In fact, you cannot tell me any cabinet or any government official that you can take their word to the bank and bank. So what they have said, Anguka Nayo, they simply means that the entire system they do not want. So what can say William Ruto is this, and I've seen people saying resign. Don't resign, Mr. President. Another thing people have said, let's go to State House and have anarchy. No, I don't want these young people to become cannon fodder because they have really suffered. The best thing to do, which is a win-win for everyone, win-win for opposition, win for Kenyans, for the Gen Z and the president, is that the president should call for a snap election in 60 to 90 days to give him a chance to get back the legitimacy which he has lost because of the failed promises, broken promises, the lies and misinformation we have gotten. That one is something that can win for everybody.
Thank you. Honorable Miriam Kitani, in a minute as we end up, what can be done to restore fully the confidence and end these demos?
You know, we look at the demonstrations from where it started. It talked about that the president is not a listening president, Zakayo Shuka, reject the finance bill, and the main issues and the rallying call, from where I understand it, is that there is a lot of opulence that was happening, there is wastage in government, and there is corruption, because the youth and everybody else says, when you tax us, why tax us when the money we are already collecting is enough to finance the operations of government and to be able to give us the development? So I think, in my view, is that the president has listened. He has fired his cabinet. What we now need to do is to make sure that that whole thing comes down to the very bottom. Because as I've told you, the whole system has issues. So this whole system needs to be cleaned up. And cleaning up house is not a one-day affair. Let's give him time. Yes, the voices have been raised. By going to the streets every Tuesday, every Thursday, you're not giving time to now put up the right mechanisms and right infrastructure. And I think he just needs to be told, we're giving you 6 months, we're giving you whatever period, and if that does not happen, find us again in the streets after 6 months, or whatever period.
In a minute or less, kindly.
I believe what Kenyans are asking for is accountability and observance of the rule of law. That is the constitution. And if that is done, then the country will move forward. So we do not have a situation where children, like yesterday, were tear-gassed in 2 schools. That was one in Kakamega and the other one in Makadara here. We do not have an issue of people who are being shot, who are being killed, who are being maimed. So let us observe the constitution and let the government be accountable. The questions people are asking are accountability. If you are able to be accountable for your actions, I believe we will not be where we are today.
Thank you so much. That is Nordin Kagai, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Also, Honorable Miriam Kitani, Member of Parliament Aldai, and Professor Fred Ogola, who is an economic and governance expert. It has been a conversation on restoration of the public confidence. My name is Joel Chacha. Do enjoy the rest of the viewing and see you tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.